All right, so it's me, Troy, and I am here to talk about my reading of book number 7 in Robert Jordan's epic high fantasy series. The book is titled A Crown of Swords. I am literally, I hope I don't use that word a lot because otherwise I'll sound like a TikToker, but I am at the halfway point of Robert Jordan's epic fantasy series now. I'm moving into book number 8, the Path of Daggers. I don't know when. I want to do it today, but my point is that I'm at the halfway point of the series. I have about 7 more books to go, and I will be done. I'm amazed. I really am. Like I read 7 of these books so far this year. Lots of ups and downs between books number 4 and 6, but surprisingly, I came away from book number 7 with a lot of epiphanies of what I might continue to expect from the series, and also some in which epiphanies in which I realize I'm gonna be disappointed in some areas. But on the up and up, I am super excited to keep reading these books. Like they're really 3-star reads to me at this point. And I kind of felt a shift happen within book number 7, where I think that a lot of people say this is where the doldrum areas start to take place, like number 7, A Crown of Swords, all the way to book number 10, Crossroads of Twilight, where the series, they call it a slog, but it's different for us who can read them back to back as opposed to back when they were being published between 2 and 3 years apart. But I did notice that something was kind of missing in A Crown of Swords. And to me, still, my favorite books are the first 3 books, and it's still the second book, The Great Hunt, is still priority, or not priority, but gold star number 1 to me. But I'm still excited. Like, I really do enjoy getting into this world that Jordan has created. I mean, I can't always compute every single faction or character motivation or character in general or the magic system all the time, but it's really about just spending time with his characters and just getting into the motion of the wonder of what's coming next, what's happening next. Although there's a lot of intrigue that bogs down a lot of the pacing, it's still just an absorbing read. But so yeah, I'm really excited to move into the Path of Daggers. It's funny though. I'm in this place where I have Barack Obama's autobiography, A Promised Land, which I bought yesterday. And I was like, I want to read that, but at the same time, I want to read The Path of Daggers. So, and then here I am actually sitting here waiting on my PS5 to come in from FedEx. So I just, busy little beaver here. Love the games and love the books. So I don't know what to do. But let me just say that this is just me talking about just keeping record of where I am with this series as I've taken it on for this year. So let me try to explain what I think are what I found illuminating when it comes to after finishing reading A Crown of Swords, both from the aspect, as I said, of being disappointed and the things that I do hope to look forward to. So going back a little bit, Shadow Rising, I petered out halfway through, managed to trudge to the end. Book number 5, The Fires of Heaven, I got all the way towards the last 200 pages. I felt drained, managed to push to the end. Lord of Chaos, I read up to 100 and probably about 20 pages, and then I figured right away that I don't think I was going to be able to make it through. So I switched to the audio book version, and I took 2 months off, and then here I am. Like, these books, they scream at me at some points, like for real, they scream at me, please pick me up and read me. It's like that's that one book that constantly keeps going on in my head. Pick this one up, this, it's calling me. So I don't know if there was a break that really got to me having that time off, or I don't know what it was, but my point is that A Crown of Swords, I read all the way through. Like, it took me 6 days to read this book. Like, I read all the way through and had a great time reading all the way through. I thought that there were going to be some moments in which I was going to find myself so passive in reading that I was going to put the book down and, pick it up some other time. But no, I read all the way through to the end, straight up. And I was really surprised. I was shocked. So it's like a good thing and a kind of a bad thing. But I'm going to just explain some of the concerns that I have reading forward. So, or what I've realized. And I made a little list here, so you probably hear me clicking on my mouse. So, keeping in conjunction with that notion that I read this book all the way through, one of the things I did realize after reading The Crown of Swords is that I actually do have the patience to go through some of the moments in these books where it's just like, what's gonna happen? Why are we just standing here talking? Let's keep moving. Like, when is the action gonna pick up? I do have the patience to get through those areas. After all, I've realized that. So even though, like I said, in the book 4 through 6, I had moments in which I petered out, or moments in which I just went to switch to audio, I realized that I actually do have the patience to pick through. I just need to sit down and just read the books. And one of the interesting things that I learned is that after I finished experiencing the Lord of Chaos in audio form, sometimes when I feel like that I'm about to I don't want to say exhausted, but when I feel like I want to put the book down and for the day, or just like this is kind of boring, for whatever reason, when I read it in the same voice of the audio narrators, for whatever reason, it just clicks and I just keep going and I enjoy myself along the way. So I guess that's some kind of bit of support. And reading the book through the audio also helped me with their names. So Fail is now Fail, and Avianda, which I was saying something totally different, is Avianda now. I still say Egwene, even though from my understanding it's actually Egwene, but I still say Egwene. And I've actually never really kind of liked her name. It immediately, when I see it and pronounce it, it makes me think of eggs. But anyway, that's besides the point. The point is that from a high point note, I realized that I really do have the patience to get through these books, and it's a great thing. And then on top of that, I also realized that I really do want to continue reading these books, because like I said, I took 2 months off because I was like, I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to read these books, but I realized that I actually can. And I'm basing that a lot on how, like I said, that people say this is when the slog begins and it gets boring and et cetera, et cetera. A lot of people drop out of these books somewhere in the 4th book, somewhere in the 6th book, but about time you may be able to get through the 7th book, then you're probably good to go. And that's another note, is that I've finally gotten to this place where I can accept that there are going to be some parts in these books that are not going to be that great to get through, but for whatever reason, because of Jordan's ability to provide intrigue in even the slowest areas, or wonder or questioning or curiosity, that I still find it important to just keep reading through those parts, just because of the simple fact that you don't know what's going to take place ahead. Now, keeping in conjunction with that point, a lot of times I do find myself disappointed in some of the storytelling threads, well, both from the perspective of their conclusions whenever they do arrive, like the end of this book, which chopped off a big story thread that took place for 4 books, as in, the death of one of the Forsaken characters, which left a very anticlimactic ending to that particular story thread, which I really want to rant about, but I'm not going to do it right now. But also from cliffhangers. I kind of lost my point there, but also from cliffhangers. I'm used to Jordan's ability to provide cliffhangers. That's what I want to get back to. That will move you on into the next book. So I'm trying to adjust myself to understanding that this is how these books are going to go. The Crown of Swords, with Matt's perspective, left off on a very exciting and interesting end. And from what I'm understanding, in the book number 8, The Path of Daggers, he doesn't even show up. So, speaking of Matt, another illuminating factor that I've gotten from reading A Crown of Swords is that, excuse me, is that Robert Jordan is actually funny as F. He is funny. I don't know. I got it in the first 6 books, I suppose. But going through A Crown of Swords, this is the first book where I really found myself cracking up laughing, like putting the book down and just howling with laughter at some of some of his comedy. And the best display of that is usually within the character of Matt, Nynaeve, and Elaine. When those three get together, it's a riot. It's a riot. And Nynaeve is probably by far the funniest. She's also my favorite character, but her disposition for always being sort of high strung, but also, she'll say like, please don't. It was one scene where she got into it with Lan. Well, Lan didn't even say anything, but I like how Jordan wrote. I wish I marked the page. I wish how Jordan wrote Lan's speech was something like, I understand that Lan said mildly. And then following that, Nynaeve quivered and started shouting, I am not mad at you. I wish I marked that page, but it was just so hilarious how he does that. I really do enjoy the humor within these books. If you really pay attention to it, it's kind of subtle sometimes as other factors start to crowd in and bore you down, but the humor is it's really funny. And so keeping along with that, I do enjoy that Jordan is very good to me at showing as opposed to telling. Like, I like how characters go through their dialogues with one another, and instead of saying something like, let's say Matt was so furious that he said something. Instead, Jordan will write something like, the look that crossed Matt's face was about as hot, something like as if he has taken in his mouth warm coals, like a chipmunk. I don't know. But the point is that he doesn't always have to tell you that what a character's emotions are or what their response is within dialogue. He can show you the character without even saying anything, and I find that's to be so great. He's really good at that, and on top of that, it really helps illuminate and illustrate and immerse you, the reader, into that whole experience and that scene between the characters. So he's very good at that. Very, very good at that. So what else do I want to go through? So another thing that I kind of came to the conclusion of after finishing reading A Crown of Swords is that, although I enjoy these books, I think they're great, I came to the realization that when it comes to the big epic portions or the big necessary big plot points where things shift, things adjust, I came to this conclusion that more than likely, if I spin the wheel, I'm probably going to be disappointed in those climactic experiences, as I mentioned earlier within this video. So there were several of them. One being in this book, Nynaeve, Elaine, and Matt, as core characters, they're trying to find the Bowl of the Winds. The Bowl of the Winds is it's either a Ter'angreal or Sangreal, whatever one of them, but it has the ability to readjust or recalibrate the weather. The weather is going crazy within this world, or beginning to, because of the influence of the Dark One growing stronger and stronger, and him being released from his prison. So they're looking for this bowl so that they can readjust, as I said, and calibrate the weather to its rightful pattern. I haven't gone into this book knowing that was a plot thread. I thought that these guys were going to go on this absolutely grand adventure. I mean, like, we're talking trudging through dark woods, being split apart, fighting, and just like these just really grand, like, okay, look, we'll say like Tomb Raider, okay? They're gonna go find this tomb somewhere deep within, etc., 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 and we're gonna have a fantastic time along the way. No, that's not what happened. The bowl was in, well, I won't give that part away, but it was so disappointing. It just kind of bugs me, because it's like, instead of spending all this time writing all these different characters, these side characters, the queen doing all this crazy stuff to Matt, can we have an adventure, like a genuine adventure where we have to saddle up and go about finding this bowl within, like I said, the woods, the forest, and then into a tomb that's guarded and gated and trapped, set everywhere, you know what I'm saying? And then we have to be resourceful in our methods of getting rid of these traps so that we can gather the bowl. it was so, I mean, it's kind of boring. I enjoyed it, but like I said, back to my point, I realized that these books in terms of that are only gonna elevate so much, which is disappointing. And speaking of another climactic moment, I was kind of disappointed that, like I said, that this is the book when one of the Forsaken characters die, and I've always struggled with this Forsaken characters. Like, I either love them or I don't like them, or I won't say I don't like them, but I either love them, or okay, I either am disappointed by them because I don't feel like that they're strong enough when they're on stage, or I actually like them. Like, Marquitian is easily my favorite because he puts a lot of work into that character, if I said her name right. And she had a great moment within A Crown of Swords that I enjoy. Really predictable, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. I love her. I do. I love Marquitian. Like, I think she's great. I'm ready for her to get executed at one point by Nynaeve, but I still love her. But back to the core Forsaken character that's introduced within this series, and he comes to his end within this book. So here's the thing. Like, one thing that I really want to say is I am tired of Shadar Logoth. I hope I said that right. That city. I'm tired of that city being the exemplary place of the fantastic capabilities within this world. You know what I'm saying? Like, what other place can you take your characters? And I enjoyed that place back when it was first introduced in the first book, but it's like, where can't we go somewhere else? You know what I'm saying? Like, can't you come up with something else that's very mysterious and interesting and intriguing and dangerous and, you know what I'm saying, and fun for our characters to go to? You know, it's Shadar Logoth is a ruined city. I think it's very well drawn and explained and illustrated for the reader, but it's been used multiple times. I want to see what other thing can the other place of danger can this author take our characters. You know, it's either we're in a boat, we're either in a city, some said city is multiple cities, we're either in a castle for chapters after chapters. You know, where can we go that's a realm that is so far removed from what is usual within this world with these characters? And I felt like that Shadar Logoth was a used element in this series. You know, I think we really don't have any other reason to go here any further, although there may be, given what took place within this book. But my point going back to is that Rand and the Forsaken character, they had their confrontation in this place. And number one, used setting. Number two, the way that this Forsaken character was dispatched or removed or executed, whatever, or killed by Rand was very anticlimactic. As I said, I don't, not to sound collegial or whatever, but my background, quote unquote background, what I enjoy most reading are mysteries. And when it comes to mysteries, when I get to the end of the book where the antagonist and the main protagonist, or the protagonist or sleuth or whatever, they're confronting one another face to face, I give, this sounds so, I don't want to sound pretentious, but I don't like when the antagonist doesn't get a chance to voice or vocalize his or her position. I don't care how many times it's explained or addressed or addressed within the book, even though this took place within over a span, this particular character's death as a villain took place over about 4 books to come to its conclusion. I still need that confrontation between him and Rand to display itself, in which he explains his position, you know, why he does what he does. And it can't just be, oh, I'm just evil, I'm working for the Dark Lord. No, what is it really inside of that character? And it's equally disappointing because this villain, he showed up in multiple different scenes throughout the book, and it just kind of round itself out without any kind of explanation of exactly what it is that he was doing. That I would hope to have heard from himself in confronting Rand. Even then, how Rand killed him was just, I mean, one of the things that I had a problem with in the first book was the struggle of power. I was hoping for more struggling of power between Rand and the final confrontation within that book, but it didn't exactly happen. And here it is. He almost killed this villain from, I don't know. It's just, it wasn't face to face. He had the advantage and he kind of took it. And I'm like, we built up all the way from 4 books waiting for this confrontation to happen. And this is how you deliver it? Where Rand doesn't even really have to even strike him. He just sort of just wraps him moves him into a trap. I'm just like, wow. Rand didn't even have to whip out his sword to sword fight with this guy. You know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that. To struggle, to nearly be killed. I mean, he had been on the pursuit, but that core final confrontation was so necessary. And it's just like, it was just like, man, yeah, whatever. And then after that, Rand comes back to the natural world or outside of Shadar Logoth, and he's crowned prince or king of Ilium. And I was thinking to myself when they crowned him king, I was like, oh my God, this is starting to read like a fantasy boys fantasy. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, look, here he is, the king now. And I am coming to the conclusion that just may be what I will be getting out of these books as I read alone. So, but I'm settled with that. I'm gonna have to be settled with that. Because I still enjoy the stories. I still, like I said, enjoy the world. The world is just like, you can't remove yourself from it once you're in it. And I just want to see what happens next. So I just come to a lot of epiphanies, a lot of conclusions, some disappointing that I realized what may continue to take place within these books. The big build up and then the pewter climax that doesn't deliver. Who knows? But that's all I really want to express with A Crown of Swords. I was so into this book that I ended up buying a lot sale of books number 4 all the way to number 9 on eBay in hardback. That's another thing. I realized that I have to read these books in hardback. They're much more comfortable in hardback because they're big and they're dense and they're so involved that I don't want to be looking over a small little print all the time. But the hardbacks are what's working for me as well. So that is it. I just want to get that off my chest. Bye.